So let's kick this session off. AI and governance in the API ecosystem. So give you a bit of background on myself. I'm Matt Tanner, as mentioned, head of growth engineering at SingleStore, the AI database. And in today's session, we're going to look at kind of four key things around AI and APIs. Now, one thing I want to warn you about is the fact that it's going to kind of look at two different views. First is how AI can actually strengthen API governance. So that's one piece of it. But there's also how AI itself needs to be governed within APIs when it's used within them. So we'll look at why AI governance matters, key challenges, best practices, and then AI-driven API governance. And we'll do that all in the next probably 8 minutes or so. Number one, why AI governance matters for API professionals. So most of us are using AI, whether we're using it to build APIs or whether we're using it within APIs themselves. We're seeing a massively rapid expansion in API usage. So as we know, over the last few years, APIs have been just proliferating across multiple teams and products. And as we get more of these APIs out there, governance complexity also scales with each new API endpoint. When we start to put AI into the mix, it actually introduces additional data processing, decision layers, and you have to have proper oversight in this to prevent misconfigurations, security gaps. We also have the growing use of AI in the APIs themselves. So AI endpoints themselves enable dynamic decision-making and personalization, which is awesome. We see that through many of these new apps coming through this AI wave. But it also leads to a bias and data quality issue that can creep up, and that becomes even more pronounced when there's not strong governance in place. So it also means that regulatory spotlight intensifies on AI-driven endpoints as we see them adopted more and more. And then we also have the elevated risks and complexity that come with using AI, whether it be for governance itself or within the APIs, stuff like model drift and frequent updates that are actually going to complicate API versioning beyond the complications that we already see there. It's also harder to explain how AI-driven decisions happen. So, we type something into, let's say, ChatGPT, or we feed something over into OpenAI, and we get back a response. A lot of times it's a black box. It also means that there's a wider threat surface for security breaches and data leaks. It means that compliance requirements need to grow alongside this API adoption. So you kind of probably had some allusion towards what I'm talking about already in terms of key challenges, but let's go a little bit deeper into these. So first is that data quality and bias. Skewed data produces unfair, unreliable AI outputs. We've seen this in the news, but we've also probably seen this in some of the products that we've built as well. We also have model versioning and lifecycle. So misaligned updates can actually break API consumers. We had this before AI, now it's even more pronounced now. Explainability and transparency is also another piece that we need to be conscious of in terms of challenges. So AI logic often lacks clear decision paths. We also have security and privacy, which I mentioned before. So sensitive data handling requires airtight controls. And what I really want to focus on is the fact that if you have some type of AI component or service that your API is leveraging, and it had access to proprietary or highly sensitive data, how do we prevent it from accessing that or knowing how to use that by the time it sends it back to an API consumer? We also have regulatory compliance. So you've got to make sure that you align AI-driven APIs with emerging laws. So we're seeing a lot more laws come out that are specific, AI specific, but there's also the laws before that we need to make sure that we're adhering to as well. So what are the best practices for AI usage and then actually applying AI to governance initiatives? First, that's very specifically AI, is establishing a model registry. So you want to track versions, you want to track data sources, you want to track metrics. You need to know these types of things. You also want to try and embed AI governance into the API lifecycle. So we think of our traditional API lifecycle as, we're going to design, then we're going to build, we're going to test. We have to add something else in there. And that is, if we start using AI components, we need to start thinking about how they're going to impact that API lifecycle and what we can do to minimize any disruptions from, let's just say, bad integrations. We also want to take a risk-based approach. So it's very, very easy to go and say, hey, we're going to cover everything. But there's probably APIs that are leveraging AI that might not have access to sensitive data. Maybe it's public data. Maybe we're less worried about governing that as opposed to stuff that is looking at internal sensitive data, financials, stuff like PII, these types of things. We also want to make sure that we have cross-functional collaboration. So making sure that legal, compliance, and product teams are all in the loop when it comes to how we're governing the AI portion of our APIs. And then, of course, continuous monitoring and feedback loops. So making sure that we audit AI model performance and continually improve that. Now, AI-driven API governance tools and techniques. I'll run through these very, very quickly. So if you're not aware, many API gateways already have AI plugins available. So this is going to help with stuff like AI governance, real-time threat detection, traffic optimization, beyond just, the static stuff that we're used to. That's going to add an automated layer of governance into our APIs. We also have AI integrated DevSecOps. So companies like Stackhawk, GitHub Advanced Security, JFrog, they're allowing you to leverage AI for automated vulnerability scanning and compliance checks, which you can also put into your CI/CD pipeline so that you have this security governance built in. We talk about observability and telemetry. So MOSIF, Splunk, Dynatrace, all of these are actually employing AI-based anomaly detection and correlation, which is going to help you to pinpoint stuff and maintain governance visibility. And then we also have the policy as code. So Open Policy Agent, HashiCorp Sentinel, Pulumi CrossGuard. These are all using AI and automated logic to enforce policy as code so you can ensure that you have consistent governance across all of your infrastructure. And that is it. So hopefully that is a little teaser on some of the stuff that you should be looking for when it comes to governing AI and then also applying AI to API governance as well. If you're interested in trying out SingleStore, here's a link, database for AI. Definitely feel free to check it out. And please engage with me further if you'd like to chat more on this subject. Thank you so much.